Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode that we should talk. Today, I am very grateful and so delightful to speak with acclaimed author who I admire a lot. And she's a very, very multidisciplinary author, artist. She really don't need too much presentation because when you see her face, you will know I talk about Chelene Knight. And she's an author of a novel called Junie, memoir, their current occupant. But also Chelene is a founder of her own creative studio, Breathing Space Creative, a literary studio, focuses on creative, sustainable, and coaching for writers, which we will talk today a little bit more longer because it's one of the things I really admire the Chelene, because she's not only a very busy author, she takes time to help us as a writer to navigate this very difficult path, which is publishing. And I am one of the benefits who that program that she have, and that immense gratitude for that, because thanks to one program I participate in, Art Poetry, I met Chelene, and we are today here together. So with more further ado, let's welcome Chelene. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. So I feel so much joy right now in this moment. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. You're so beautiful. And yes, I feel the same joy and gratitude to be here with you today in this space, sharing this and having the opportunity and the privilege to talk with you about writing, about all the creative stuff that we are very immersed ourselves as a artist. I will start with a little short story, because as a Cuban, we talk a lot. A very short story. For me, in 2017, participating in a program organized by Ontario Arts Council, Fuel for Fire. It was a professional development for writers of color. And that event, it was my first event in Toronto since I immigrated from Cuba. And that event changed my life because I heard about you and I met a few other authors of colors. That changed my life. After I started to research and connect, since that time, I follow you, having trying to connect and learning about the authors I admire and read. So this podcast is about that, mostly the time, about people I follow and I would like to meet beyond this electronic. So question is, can you recall how was as a writer of color, first time publishing and navigating in this system barrier with all the challenges publishing industry? How was? I know you talk about that many, many times, but if you want to share a little bit with us.
Yes, I would love to. And what a beautiful first question, because you give me the opportunity to go back and to revisit. And it's funny because I was just thinking about this idea of going back and revisiting experiences. So this is perfect. I think for me, with my very first book, I had no idea what to expect. And so anything that anyone told me to do, I just did it. And that I think was good for me because it allowed for me to try things and figure out what I liked. What did I value as a writer? What made me feel excited? What scared me? And I really started to take note of all of these different things. So my very first publishing experience was so scary. And I think this is helpful for writers to know, because if you're feeling that way, like being published is scary, talking about your writing is scary, is natural. And I will say it never really goes away. I am on book number, what book am I on?
5, 6.
Book number 5, and I'm still scared. But I think the fear kind of changes a little bit, where now I'm scared of some different things. Where being out there and talking, I love it now. I've figured out how to speak in a way that makes me feel good. I slow down. I speak really slowly now. When I first started with my first book, I was like this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this. I was really just like trying to hurry up and get it over with. So my first publishing experience, I think, was all about fear, but it was also about trying things and figuring out, what do I want for my next book? But all the mistakes that I made as a new writer, I think all of that was the most valuable, because I took all of those mistakes and I started to build resources. And I said, what do I want for other writers? I don't want everyone to experience all of these mistakes and fear and, so I started to build some really cool resources for writers and to share that. So my very first experience, I will say, was very scary, but I took that as an opportunity to evolve. With each book, I can change, I can grow. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much my first experience.
That's so beautiful. And yes, I really, really appreciate that you say that, because it's true. It's absolutely true. Always is really scary to put your word out there, and to the peer and all the fears that Chelene, that's beautiful. In this podcast, we should talk. Today with Chelene, I really would like to revisit, like you say, that's good that we are in the same energy, because I know you gave a lot of interview and you have a lot of the review about your books, but I would like to have this space to share a little bit, mostly your books, because maybe our audience is new and don't know. So I would like to ask you, how was the process to write Junie? Junie, who is now an amazing novel. I really highly recommend. I love it. I read, and I enjoy the music, the playlist that you create. Yes, it's so beautiful. And so I would like to share the Junie. Junie is the winner, the 2023 City the Vancouver Book Award. It's a long list this year, the CBC Canada books, right? Also, it's a long list, the Carol Chess Prize for Fiction, other amazing prize book award. You can check that. You can read it, because it's a very nice and very important, like a hub. We can see this novel in the big screen. So we would like to talk about that. Yes. So please, could you share with us how was the most challenging part, the writing or finalize this novel? Because you cross, how you say, cross genders. Yeah, that's my word.
Yeah.
The poetry to novel. So that's one the thing I admire about you, because you go the one gender, another. So in this time, the second, it was novel. So please, could you share with us?
I would love to. Writing a novel, I feel like I'm going to keep saying it was scary, but it was very scary for me, because I've never written fiction before. I'm always poetry. Poetry is my world, is my life, is everything. So to say to myself, this story that I have in my head and this character needs to be fiction, needs to be a novel. I said, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do this. And so, I've taken some fiction courses, but nothing very formal. And so to try my hand at fiction for the very first time was a big undertaking. And so I called on my poetry and I said, what does my poetry have to teach me about fiction? And I was able to answer that. Everything is language. I can build a character who sees the world the same way that I see the world. She sees the world through color, through the senses. And that brought me to poetry. And I said, all I have to do is pull that into fiction. That's all I have to do. So it was a really fun experience writing fiction, I think, because I was able to pull on all of my different tools that I already had And really, what's really important to me is stitching together a story in a way that feels authentic to me. So I started to learn the rules of fiction, and some of the rules I thought, well, this isn't going to work for my story. My character is very different, so I need to find a different structure, a different shape. So that led me to exploring narrative shape and arcs. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do something really different with my character, and I'm going to jump around in point of view, which, you shouldn't do too much in fiction, so I'm told. What's interesting is when I look at all of my books, and I look at Junie. Junie is the book that I think so many people connected to, maybe because of the poetry, maybe because of the character, the story, the shape. But I feel like that book has a spotlight on it. And after writing the book, I kind of veered away and I did some nonfiction. But now I feel pulled back into fiction, which is really exciting for me. So now having the experience of writing some fiction, how can I take
Another novel?
Another novel is coming. You heard it here first. I really haven't told anyone. Maybe my newsletter. I think I might have mentioned that I'm working on a new novel idea. But yeah, I learned so much about myself through the process of writing a novel that took me 17 drafts to write. People think I've lost my mind. You wrote this book 17 times?
Thank you so much for saying that, Chelene, because you shared that privately with me and when there were back and forward emails during the mentorship. And I was like, wow, you are so kind to share that because not all the art writers share how much took. And that's very important for me was like, wow, I have to keep going with my draft until I feel confident. And that's thank you so much for sharing that because it's a very beautiful novel, Junie, and also very cinematographic. I can see because I love movies and of course I have a background in movies too. But when I read, it was like I can see it. And also you shared something and I was took with me. You say that you never been in that town and in the Hogan's Alley. I would like that you share a little bit how was that Hogan Alley's neighborhood, how important it was, because in one interview I heard, or maybe you can correct me, I understood that you say you didn't know as a Canadian that place, right?
Yes, that's right. You follow me so closely that you know all of the things. I love this. And I talk a lot about Hogan's Alley for me. And again, it was this neighborhood in Vancouver, BC, that was more like a place for an immigrant community and a Black community and these people that kind of came together and built something within the wider city. It's a small neighborhood where people were really helping each other, starting businesses. It was really beautiful. And of course, this neighborhood was in its heyday in, the 1930s and 50s. And in the late 60s, the neighborhood was kind of, demolished with the Georgia Viaduct being put right through the neighborhood. So everyone kind of had to find somewhere else to go. And I don't think this is a rare story, unfortunately, of being displaced and having to leave, your home. But what was really hard for me is not knowing about this neighborhood until maybe 2012, 2013, when writer Wade Compton, I think I was taking a creative writing class with him, and he was talking about this neighborhood. And I felt something in my body, like there was this neighborhood that existed, and I've lived in this city my entire life. How did I not know about this? And so there was a sadness there. And I thought, as a writer, as a creative, I have an opportunity to not only bring this neighborhood back in the way that I envision it, but to give other people who also live in this area, give them an opportunity to imagine. Just think of a world that they were once part of that was maybe taken away. So I really wanted this book to be an opportunity to think about that neighborhood, but also think about other places and other communities. And so to do that, again, I had to look at fiction and I had to think, how can I use the tools of fiction to encourage readers to imagine something more? So it wasn't really about resurrecting that neighborhood as I knew it to be true when I think about it, but it was about resurrecting like a dream almost.
Yes.
That was really hard to do.
I can imagine because it's a very complex structure, as you mentioned, and I love novels. I am a huge fan of the reading novel. I still read the big ones because I enjoy it. That's something I still do it. Sometimes, yes, for me as a new Canadian, say like that, it was kind of connecting with that town as immigrants as well, but also to, as I just say, beautiful, to find other places. Maybe my own country have a little town like that that I didn't know because we live so fast in this world. And sometimes we are centered in only one things and one and don't know others. So that was beautiful for me I love research. So as a writer as well, it was like I would like to check other towns like that. And also, as I say before, it's not only you talk about music, the jazz. I love jazz, and it's all very poetry, of course, because you came with that background. But beautiful connecting. I really enjoyed. I read like in maybe less than 1 week. It was very because I love to read slow, as I say, slow reading, but to enjoy very well. So thank you so much for sharing that, Chelene. I would like our audience know something about you. Probably they already know if they know you, but you are certificates in mindfulness, how you say, mindfulness facilitation, right?
Yeah, to teach mindfulness. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you think that how have been incorporate mindfulness practice in your writing have helped to find a way to express yourself or to do this structure as a creative in this chaotic time? Important.
I think it's really important to figure out what mindfulness can look like for you. What can it feel like? What can it do? I think I came into mindfulness quite late, like maybe just starting in 2020 after the pandemic and really starting to get into it. But I think I was pulled into learning more because of my personality, because of being what I thought was just an introverted person. But what I'm learning now as I kind of tap into mindfulness, as I tap into the way the brain works and psychology and looking at all of that, that I'm really just a highly sensitive person. And so I see the world, I think, in a very unique way. And I think as creatives, we all kind of do. But the things that people often quickly run by, stop. And I want to look, and I'm so curious. I will spend an hour just thinking about I'll pick up a leaf and I'll be, wow, I'm curious about this. And so the mindfulness really is just being present. It's kind of understanding that there's a lot going on, but saying I could press pause on all those things at any moment and I can think about something. And when it comes to creativity, we are all writing the same stories. I really believe this. We all have the same things that we want to say, but it is through the slowing down and paying attention to what's around us that we now can interpret what we see onto the page in a really unique way. So if we're all talking about displacement and grief and love and complex family issues, we're all writing and talking about these things, but through that lens of slowing down and thinking about how we see the world, now we can string these words together in a really intricate way. And that's what makes these stories fresh and new. So when writers say, oh, I don't have time to do this, I have to hurry up, I think, no, find a way to slow down, because I think that is where the most powerful writing is birthed, is through that slowing down. And even if, it's something simple, like you can sit down with your daughter and have a coffee and maybe she has a glass of milk or something, and just sitting with each other and paying attention. How would you write that? How would you write a moment like that if you have not taken the time to really be inside of it? So I try to remind writers that every day, the things that you're doing, that's creativity. Us together in this space is us writing together. We're not picking up a pen, but we are writing together. And when we remember that that's what writing is, we don't feel guilt or shame for not actually picking the pen up and drafting, because this is part of the writing process.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chelene.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
I really loved what you say, because that's one of my questions here, the stillness moment. Because I remember you say, we, of course, we are human, and we live in this city that is in Toronto, is chaos, totally chaotic, and we have to balance our life and all that time. And you say something is stuck with me, and I read in your newsletter, maybe, did you say that walking with your dog is writing as well? And I was like, oh, that's amazing, because I love to do that. Only to, I feel like I'm writing when I go to with my camera, only to snatch photos and to create photograph. And that's very important. Yes, thank you so for remind that, and to share that moment with us. Now I would like to keep going with this conversation about stillness, mindfulness, and talk about something you share in your books, the joy, the let it go, free yourself from all belief, and find a new path to joy. That books, I must say, I start my 2024 this year with your books, like my Bible. I'm not religious, so for me it was like I start to read every. Yeah, I am not really. That's unpopular opinion, like you say. But yes, I really don't do that kind of stuff. But this year, thanks to you, I must say, I start like a very disciplined with that, and also find other authors who kind of share very similar mindset. Like one author I love is called Jimmy Attendever. In her books, he talk about as well the joy and the season. So please, how for you, how how does spread joy during this time? How you find joy? How you can tell us, the audience who don't know your books and maybe want to read, how is that line below? It's a beautiful book, so I really highly recommend it as well. But
yes, I think joy is really difficult for many people. And I think because we don't take time to define it for ourselves. What does it mean to feel joy? And how much control do we really have over that? So for me, the mindfulness and slowing down, that is where the joy comes in. We can't really enjoy things if we're just going so quickly. So when I learned that I could slow things down, I think it gave me a lot of joyful feelings, because we live in a world, like you say, is very chaotic. Everything's rushing and noisy. And how do we take back a piece of quiet and peace for ourselves? So yesterday, I think it was, yesterday I wrote on Instagram about how I have this basket of books and it's really messy in there. And that's intentional, because I don't want to just pull a book from my shelf and start reading it. I want to discover it. I want to search for it. So I slow down. If I know I want to look for this book, it could be so quick, just pull it off my shelf. And I've given myself the opportunity to have to search for it and discover, because along that way, I might touch another book. I might find a book I forgot about and say, wow, I forgot about this, and start opening, So joy, I think, can come from the moments that we slow things down for ourselves. It doesn't have to be a lot. I think a lot of writers, creatives, we are so focused on how something won't work for us versus how it can. So when you change your mindset around thinking, you've kind of got the scarcity mindset, and over here is the abundance mindset. I've been able to move from the scarcity mindset with like book one over to what is possible. And I think it is being in that space that has built the Forever Writers Club. It has built all of my offerings. It has allowed me to write a book like Let It Go, because when I was presented with the idea. So the idea for the book was presented to me to write this. And I thought, oh no, I can't write this. What are you talking about? And I said, hold on, Chelene, slow down. Think about this. What does joy look like for you? And when I started to see it, I thought, oh, I can write that. That's fine. I can do that. So thinking about the seasons, because the seasons are really important to me. If I look out my window, I can even see the trees are starting to change color a little bit. And I noticed that. So I think about passing time. I think about what's important to me in the fall. What exciting and joyful things can I look forward to, even though we're letting go of this beautiful summer season? Something beautiful is on the horizon. So, really, I think slowing down allows me to see all of the beauty and joy really clearly. But I will also say it allows for you to see the things that are a little heavier. So, a lot of the grief and pain, you can see it up close as well. But the joy helps to balance that, out.
Beautiful and powerful. I'm so grateful
Thank
that you
you.
shared that. And also I would like to remark again, what do you say about feeling and all the uncomfortable things as well? We have to name it, no? And we have to
Yes,
live it
that's
and
right.
recognize as well. And that's something I think you share a lot about that in your newsletter. So I recommend that you subscribe to Chelene newsletter, because I learn a
Yes,
lot
please.
about your recommendations, and I always enjoy Monday reading your
All good.
emails. Yes, yes, yes. I have to say it's true.
Amazing.
So I recently talked about joy. Recently, I have to spotlight you because today is your day. So today, I recently discovered an author through you, and now I love him. Well, his books and the way he laughs, and he's so funny. Maybe you know who is. He's saying, and joy is such a good human magnet. He said that in one essay I read recently. The name is Ross Gay. I discovered him from you, from one interview you do, and I really, really enjoy what he say about joy. And that in that essay, he say joy is such a human magnet, and that make me think us as a creator, how we gave a shape to that. And I think you much beautiful doing this book, the Let It Go. So I think that's something connecting there. I don't know. I feel like it was kind of the energy from the books, right?
I think when it comes to joy, again, if you look at Ross Gay's work, the way that he allows himself to experience joy. Like I was reading, I have his books, they're right in front of me. He has Inciting Joy, he has the Book of Delights,
Delight.
and then the Book of More Delights. And I think, wow, I think that's a powerful book, The More Delights, just because he opens up the possibility of there never being an end to what we can celebrate about ourselves. And, some things that I took away from his writing, it's just these simple moments where I remember he was writing about the decision to open your cupboard and select what mug you wanted to use for your coffee. And again, a simple thing that we all have access to open our cupboard and take a mug out, but to do so with the underlying understanding that there can be joy in that act. And I think, wow, we all deserve joy because it is accessible. It doesn't have to be a big, sweeping, huge thing that happens to us. Joy is in the simple moments if we allow it to reside there. So I appreciate his writing for that, right? Like,
Thank
wow. Yeah.
Yes,
I love that.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Now you something talk about unpopular opinions, which is just something you love to do. I know that because you say that in one workshop. I hear you. And I heard you a long time ago, you say one of your opinions, unpopular, that I love. You say you don't believe in writer's block.
Yes.
Can you explain to us why? And show me that.
Yes, I love this one. And everyone, I think people either are curious about this opinion or they get really annoyed and they say, Oh, how dare you, Chelene. So that's
No,
why
I
I
love
think
it.
it's unpopular. It's so funny to me because it's really also connected to what you just shared about being Cuban and being naturally like a happy people. I find that to be so beautiful and so interesting because I think naturally we hold something in us. We all hold the answers to these blocks. Like we all hold having access to joy, but we choose not to open it. And I think you say, hey, the joy is there. I'm just going to experience it as it comes. It's the same thing with the writer's block. I think we use it as an excuse to stop. If something is wrong in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds, in our environment, something is off, we say, this writer's block, I must stop what I'm doing, instead of saying, well, let me ask myself some questions about what I need right now. What is causing this? What is making me feel like I need to pause? But again, that takes slowing down. It also takes self awareness. It means looking in the mirror, which a lot of people do not want to do. And so it's easier to say I have writer's block. And I think as a industry, we've latched onto this excuse for, I don't know, hundreds of years, and we use it so much, and we're unwilling to say, hold on, maybe there's something else going on here. So I'll be the first to say I don't think writer's block exists. I think it's an excuse to not look at the root cause of something. Like if we say it's writer's block, then that means we can do all these temporary things, or we can avoid really getting to know who we are as people. Because when I know myself, I'll have full on conversations in my office with myself about what I'm doing. If I say I'm stuck, no, I need to stretch my body, or I need to eat something, or maybe I need to call a friend and talk to somebody about something that's poking my mind. So writer's block, I think, is something that we as writers use as an excuse to stop what we need to be doing. That's all I think. I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you. No, thank you so much. I love it. And I agree with you because I was one that would say that to myself as
Me
well,
too.
long time ago. And I turned out the wasting my time watching Netflix. And I was like, oh, no, Yannis, you just don't want to do it, or you are fear to do of many blocks
Yes.
we have as a
Fear.
creator. Yes. And yes, thank you so much to say that, because since I heard you that say that, I start to analyze
Yeah.
myself, and self-reflection. That's very important as well for us as a creator.
Exactly.
And I took my time and said, no, that time that you want to spend doing other stuff, maybe you can write. That's another
Yes.
things, study and research. That's something you say that a long time ago as well.
Yeah, it's part of writing. It's part of writing. Maybe that's connected to the writer's block as well, as we think writing is only the drafting. So sitting at the computer and typing, the word count goes up. We think when that stops, we stop writing. But like I said before, you and I in conversation, Yannis, this is writing. So maybe we just need to, and I don't want to say pivot. People don't like that word, but maybe we need to turn over here and look at something else that counts as writing. Walking our dogs, maybe go to the store, look at the produce, pay attention to the colors, the textures. How does it feel? That's writing, right? So writer's block, maybe drafting block, we could say. But writing in general, there's so many other things we can do. The block doesn't have to be connected only to the drafting. You're getting me to think now, Yannis. I love this.
Good. I love it because you are you're thinking a lot, so I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I really enjoyed this conversation, Chelene. I would like to ask you to share a little bit. You have a signature workshop that I love it, and I took this year as well. And the workshop is Say No with Love. And for me, that workshop, even I've been read a lot about this theme through you and through other authors I follow. It was really important because say no in this society in Canada, I feel like it will be like a closing door or burning bridge or missing opportunity and beyond. So personally, I experienced that. And I didn't regret. I say, now I understood. And I say, okay, well, it wasn't the moment. Please, could you please tell my audience the power behind saying no with love?
Saying no with love. I think we can go all the way back to my
Yes.
first book experience when I said I was scared, I was afraid, I was tired. I said yes to everything. And what this did was it burnt me out to the point where when I was doing my next book, when I was writing my next book, talking about my next book, I didn't know who I was. I was through talking and sharing through this empty shell of a person. And I feel like people didn't get the heart of me. They didn't get all of me because I didn't have all of me. So, this idea of saying no with love is thinking about what do I want and need in this moment? What am I going to prioritize for myself? And everything that I say yes to must in some way contribute to that. And the saying no and feeling like we might be burning bridges and closing doors is probably the most common fear I think that a lot of writers have. And so I try to help folks understand that saying no in a way in that moment is not really closing that door. If you can think about how your no is so rooted in something valuable, when you say no in this way, that other person's going to see that and feel that and understand that. So you don't say, no, I don't want to do this. You say, here's what I'm focusing on in this season, but I love what you folks are offering, and I would love to be considered in this upcoming season. Or I would love to talk about maybe doing something different in the future. And so this idea of love is coming from a place of intention. You're saying no to this particular ask. You're not saying no to this person or to this organization, unless you really want to say no to them. But it's this idea of being intentional about how you protect your energy and your time so that you yourself becomes the vessel for filling up. You're making deposits into your bank account of self. And when you're full up, you say, I can now make a withdrawal and I can give this over here. So when people ask me, Chelene, it feels like you give so much to community, to your writers, and you create all of these things. I'm full up. I've been making deposits all year in my bank account of self, and now I can give back. When I look at my first book experience, I could never do that, but I was still doing it. I was giving from a place of empty and wondering why I felt empty when I showed up on stage, when I showed up to my page, essentially. So I think the saying no with love is so much bigger than just saying no. It is building out the creative self that you know is in there. And so that's why it's my signature offering, because without that, I would not be able to do any of the other things that I do. It's so important. And it's always going to be free. I will say to your audience, anytime you want to take this workshop, it's free forever. I'm never going to charge for the Say No with Love workshop because I know the value of it. And I am nourished when I deliver it. I feel like I'm depositing again into my account of self. And the workshop is opening up again for fall. So October 5th is the next version. And I change it every season. I add
So we
some
can
new
repeat
flavors.
again.
Yeah, I add some
All
spice
right.
to the pot. So it's going to be fun this fall.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're beautiful. And that's something I admired about you because I have purpose as well as a creator and community builder. And that's something I admire about you because as I just say, when we are fill ourselves or bucket or I love the accounts, bank account, money and wealth. That's beautiful. We had to think about that and talk about that as well as a creator. And I love that you mentioned. We can deliver, we can give it, we can serve as a building community. If we don't have that, we cannot do. And that's something for me. I start to be more conscious with more purpose. What year I can do it and what year I cannot and stop. Right. And yes, so that's beautiful. I would like to talk about this beautiful author that you have behind, like for me as well, is my mentor. I think like a big writer I read all the time. I know it's one that you're how you say, lifelong guide as a creator. So could you share with us what other authors are your lifelong guide as a creator, please?
I feel like you're inside my brain because I was just thinking about this yesterday too. And I think when we have guides, I think I call on the writers who not only are speaking to the things that I'm curious about, but the writers who have created a pathway for the rest of us to walk on. So I think about Toni Morrison as someone who, like, I remember learning about her that she wrote a lot of her novels just in like a notepad. She had like a simple notepad like this and would scribble the entire novel there. But she would also protect her time in the mornings. Like, she speaks a lot about how the mornings were so important to her that she protected that time. And I thought, wow, someone like her protecting time, very interesting. And then I thought about the power of language. So Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks, Toni Morrison. And I started to think about how they all speak to the same ideas, but they're saying it in a very different way, coming from very different lived experiences and maybe different times. So when I hear writers who say, oh, I can't write about this because this writer is writing about it, or this novel is very similar, I think, wow, we're all saying the same thing, but it is through our unique perspective that we offer this fresh take. So a lot of the writers that I admire have shown me that we can all talk about the same things. Maya Angelou is another one. And also not only writers of the past from long ago. There's so many writers today, like Ross Gay. Ian Williams writes beautifully.
Yes, I love him
You
too.
know, he's so good. And he's also someone who writes in multiple genres. So he writes in poetry, nonfiction. He has a novel, I think, reproduction. He has a novel.
Yes.
So I really admire writers who can write in different genres because for me, it feels like they pay attention to what story they're telling and what shape it needs to take. And they just go with that. So to jump around is still intentional, and you don't have to follow one path. So, for example, if you, Yannis, you have a beautiful book of poetry, which I hope you do, and I hope we get to work on together, maybe after that you decide, you know what, I want to write in a different language, or maybe I want to write nonfiction, or maybe I want a book of short stories, flash fiction. And we talk about why that shape is so necessary. And then we support each other in the building of it. So I feel like these writers support me. They're not speaking to me directly, but I feel like they are, you know? So how lucky are we? How lucky are these creatives to have all of these amazing writers that we can turn to? You know, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And that's the reason I ask you this question, because I feel the same. I feel like a shelf, my bookshelf. They are my guys because I order the authors who speak to me, and I start to building like a little place to go and check and read. And yes, absolutely, that don't have to be a live one. Can be another.
That's right. Could be
another
anyone.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Have this kind of conversation with authors live.
Yes.
Because I think it's very important to know what the process, what nourishing themselves, because we only see the product, the final product, but we don't know nothing behind the scenes. So I love that. I would like to get back to one question that I really love to ask you. It's about something you make me reflect a lot this year about non-negotiable negotiable things with others. So please, could you share with us how, as a creator, we can have that boundaries, or how we can express in the best way this non-negotiable space?
Yes, non-negotiable. I love this phrase so much because I think as creatives, there are always going to be things that we don't want to change. But what we skip is we don't intimately understand why. Why is it that we don't want to budge on this thing or this idea? When we can understand that, we can have beautiful conversations with editors, publishers, other people in the writing world about our projects. So, for example, one non negotiable that I had for Junie was I had to make sure this book was set in that neighborhood of Hogan's Alley and to really research that. That was non negotiable for me. I had a wonderful editor, was very supportive, and she said to me, well, why does your book have to be set in, why don't you change where the book is set? And I felt like a pain in my body. And I said, what's going on? So at that time, I didn't understand that that was a non-negotiable that she was poking against, but she didn't know. I didn't know. But through the way I felt, I said, wow, it's really important to me that I set my book here. Let me reflect and explore. And then because I understood that, I relayed that to her, and she was like, wow, I get it. I 100% understand. And I said, good, me too, because I didn't before. So the fact that she poked against a non-negotiable showed me how to value what was really important to me. So now as creatives, I think we have to think about that. So if you have a book of poetry, maybe there's a specific poem or title or image that must be present in that book, and you understand why. It allows for you to have powerful conversations about that thing. And sometimes you don't know what your non-negotiables are, and that is okay, because I was there too. I had no idea until I felt it in my body.
Yes, that's beautiful you say that, because I don't have idea as well before. When you asked me that question, I was like, I know as a person, I have my own say no these things. But as a creator, I was like, I don't know what does she mean. And I asked you, and you explained me to you beautiful. And I said, oh, okay, yes, this and this and this. Okay, that's more sense now. And after that, I have been working with that question for me. And I will tell you, yes, it's changed this year. I have been more focused on that and more. I hope that finished. Okay, your upcoming books, I already reserved for pre-order. You're forthcoming with House of Anansi, right? And will be like a guide journal for authors. And I love that because it's a lot of stuff there about that subject and theme. But as you say, beautiful, we have our own imprint. And I know, now I know I know will be a powerful tool to navigate this creative block. Can you share a little bit? I know you cannot say too much, but what is inside?
I would love to. This is very exciting for me right now too, because we are in the promotional phase where we're starting to make some plans around how to introduce this book to the world in January 2025 when it's available. But essentially, it's a guided journal for writers or even for creatives who have been interested in writing and maybe don't know that they are writers. You have this journal where you can document every piece of your writing journey, from the idea for this book project, maybe, to like publishing and promoting it. Even if you don't publish the book, you can still document the entire journey. So I ask you some prompts, I offer you some exercises, I share some personal stories as well. So essentially, what you get to do is you get to have a home for your writing journey, and you get to have like a time capsule of your experience that you can put this book on your shelf and take it off and read through and remember and revisit. Because I think one of the things that I miss most, or I wish I had, would be that exact thing, to go back into a writing or publishing experience and just look at all of it and remember. And so I created my own notebook and I started to document these things. And I thought to myself, wow, what if this was a tool for writers? And I pitched the idea to my agent, and she submitted the book idea, and House of Anansi said yes. I had a lot of no's, I will say, because I think it's important to talk about rejection. I think I had like 30 publishers say no. So that was really hard. They said no with love. People said no.
You say your workshop?
Yeah, I would say, hey, they should take my workshop. But, having those no's just made me realize that we're just trying to find the right home. for this
Yes.
project, and House of Anansi was the right home. They were very excited about the idea. So if anything, it's an opportunity for writers to capture their rejections as well, to capture their collaborators, their guides, and to have a home for all of it. And that's what safekeeping, this guided journal, is all about.
Yeah, safekeeping. I really love
Yeah.
because we do that. It's like the housekeeping, the safekeeping. It's
Yes.
like I love that word. And yes,
Exactly.
I already mentioned. Yes, I believe somebody said a long time ago the rejections is protection. I didn't remember who said that, but it wasn't me. I read that. I took that as my own journey because as a
Yeah.
writers or creative, we receive a lot of rejection. And that's something I will share here in our podcast. One video you have on YouTube about this theme, the rejection, that which I was kind of, that's exactly what I think. Because for me, it's like a rejection is another opportunity to rebuilding again, reorganize the project, reset sometimes, because sometimes you apply for grants or stuff and it's not the right moment or the right words. And for me, it's a learning experience all the time. Any rejection, personal rejection, professional rejections. Anyway, Chelene, to close our beautiful moment in this podcast that we should talk, I really would like to close with one question. I think we can keep going forever, forever to close, because I really enjoyed to talk with you, and I'm so excited, so nervous and so excited. So I would like to ask you to close. What are the 3 things the world needs right now? If you have 3 things to say, like to summarize.
I think the world needs for sure more compassion, self-compassion, and compassion for each other over judgment and assumptions and the stories we create about people before we get to know them. So self-compassion and compassion, maybe those are 2 things, 2 separate things. And definitely a desire to slow down. The world wants us to hurry up. And in fact, we are rewarded for hurrying up and moving at our quickest possible pace. What if the world said no more? Let's all slow down. What would happen? I have no idea, but I think it would be beautiful mayhem if we all slowed down. So that's what the 3 things: compassion, self-compassion, and a desire to slow down.
Beautiful. Wow. I cannot. I agree with you. Yes, match it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chelene, for your time. I hope we can keep going this conversation. This is a door. I open my door for you and really full the gratitude, overwhelmed joy, the having this space with you and this. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for for inviting me into your home. You opened the door to me, and this has been so nourishing. I have so much energy now after speaking with you, Yannis. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did everything so beautifully, and I want you to remember this. Because this is hard to do, to ask someone to be in your space, to research, to come up with these questions. It's a lot of work. So celebrate yourself today, because I think you've done a beautiful job and I had so much fun. I could talk to you forever, but I won't.
Okay. No.
How amazing.
Let's keep in touch.